So I had a memory pop up on my Facebook feed recently from about 5 years ago where I got stuck in a bathroom in South Carolina. You see, I was on vacation with my in laws at Myrtle Beach, and through a series of terribly unfortunate events, I ended up stuck in a bathroom, and they had to call the fire department to come and get me out. It was also around that time where I started to get really serious about programming and software development, so today I wanted to look back on my past 5 years as a developer and talk about my experience with it. So this all starts in 2019. Now, in 2019, I was a junior in college or going into my junior year of college. And prior to that working, I was a gymnastics coach at my former club and at my former high school. So outside of school, I really wasn't doing too much actual development work. I did dabble a little bit in game dev, but nothing is serious. 2019, that started to change. The first thing that happened was I landed my first freelance project, and I still work on this project today. It was really the thing that kickstarted my whole kind of journey here. This was the first app that I was one, getting paid to build, two, that I would actually take to production and that people would use. And this really kicked off my love for web development. At the time, I decided I was going to build it in Java and Angular. I did not know React at the time. All in school, we were using Java and C++, and just doing my online research came to the conclusion that, Angular was a good pairing for Java backends. So I built the app and we had an MVP with it and let people test it and use it. And that was honestly a super cool experience. The other thing that happened in 2019 was my wife, girlfriend at the time, was pushing me to start getting an internship. And what ended up happening was I applied to a local place that was a very small company, but instead of offering me an internship, they offered me a part time junior position, which I took. So I got my first job as a junior developer. And that also was a huge stepping stone in terms of my career. There we go. Okay. So at my first job, I was part time. I was doing maybe, I don't even remember how many hours a week I was doing, but I got to do a lot of really cool stuff. It was me and the senior developer at the company, and we got to work with .NET Framework for clients. We got to do Python, Django for some apps. Embedded systems with Raspberry Pi was another really, really cool one. There was a little bit of WordPress. There was some JavaScript in there. There was .NET Core. You did Azure, all kinds of stuff. I learned Git here, right? Like that. This was my introduction to Git and version control. Also, things like pipelines and automated deployments, CDCI, all kinds of stuff. So it was a phenomenal stepping stone for my journey and just really helped my growth. Okay, so now we're going to get into what I would consider to be the next phase here. So after 2019, I continued to work at my first company and I continued to work on my freelance project. And that was really all I had going on during the pandemic. Um, at some point during this time between my junior and senior years, um, I felt for me it would be best to explore a different employment, and I ended up in December of 2020. Whoopsies! I ended up in December of 2020 switching jobs. So I went to another company by us, a lot bigger of a company, but this turned out to be another very valuable move for me. I started making a higher salary. worked on a very large, very complicated project and would get to work on multiple complicated projects there. I got to go through the process of things like code reviews. Um, I had a team of people I could work with and really just push my growth. And again, this was something that really helped push my development forward. The other thing that happened in 2020 was I graduated college. And I don't really recommend anybody do this because it was kind of a lot on me. So, like I mentioned, when I started at my first job in 2019, I was a part time developer, right? So I had plenty of time to do work and plenty of time to do school. The pandemic kind of changed that, right? So when I switched jobs, I went on as full time and I was still a full time student with however many credit hours it needs to be full time. It was my second semester of senior year. So I've got capstone, I've got projects, finals, like just trying to finish out my degree, and that was really hard. That was really a lot. I would work all day and then turn around and study the rest of the night. And again, it was one of those things that I don't recommend people do, but it was also one of those things that really pushed me and ultimately made me a better developer for just the amount of hours I was putting in. And it kind of set a foundation for, well, what I'm about to get into next. My work ethic and just where I'm at now. So the other big part of 2020 was I started learning React and Next.js. And this is going to be super important for everything that comes after. But, going from like an MVC type framework and working in Java and Angular to React and Next, this really changed my perspective on web development. I started to really love working with this tool set and these technologies, and this would absolutely carry on to today. Okay, 2021. So things started to get a bit serious for me in 2021. And this was when I really started to, it's the second time I've done that. I meant to click this. It was when I started to get serious about actually building projects and growing a community. So I was still at my second job at this point. I had graduated school and gotten a nice raise, and I was doing well there. I also started, just picking up a couple more clients for freelancing. And one client I picked up, we decided to use Next.js and Supabase as the stack. So picked up new client for freelance. So I got to work with Next.js as an actual full stack framework and take an app to production with it. And this was another one of those projects where this was small, but it was a great stepping stone for me because I went from building with, Java Spring, more of a traditional stack, to something modern, something fast, something I can scale on my own, and I loved it. I was hooked. The speed at which I was able to get this out and all the features they wanted in it was incredible. And it's still running to this day. They still use it. It is awesome. That same year, I decided that I was going to take the old Java Spring app and migrate it to Next. The thing with this was, so this was in production and it was being tested. There's a reason that we decided to port it. One, it was because I had really coded myself into a corner on this original app. It was not good. I didn't know system design back then. I didn't know how to write a database table to accommodate the structure of what they wanted. So it was a survey app, right? And I hard coded certain tables for certain fields in, and it was just super not maintainable. So lessons learned from 2 years of working at this point and working in larger systems with people who are a lot smarter than me, we decided, hey, let's move this to Next. It'll be easier for me to maintain by myself, and I can fix a lot of these missteps that I took in the original app. We decided, let's do it. Started down this path. Now the thing with this app too, and why we decided we could do like a full rewrite, full migration, was it's an app specifically for gymnastics gyms, and they were all closed, not really running in this time. It was a weird time. It was a pandemic, right? So we decided to just take that time, rebuild it, and it's a lot better now. It's again being used today, and people who are using it were very happy with it and are finding tremendous value in it. So the other thing that happened in 2021 was I got serious about posting on Twitter. And I decided I was really going to, try and grow a community and share what I was doing and just, share my experience as a developer. And I started to make some really, really great connections on here that helped guide me forward and just re-sparked my love for building sites. And this was another one of those things where it just kind of kick-started my whole journey going forward. I started posting on Twitter. I also started, I think it was around then, I started my blog. It was either in 21 or 22, and I feel like it has to have been 21, because I got married in 2022. So I started my blog, and that was another one of those things. This was really a lot more nerve-wracking than posting on Twitter, because now I'm actually writing things like long-form content, and I didn't know how people would react to that. Like, what if I wrote something that was wrong? Like, I didn't... I was really nervous to start posting on my blog, but, as I started doing it, as I started getting comfortable with it, I really like blogging. So it's something I'm continuing with to this day. So these things really started to, shape my mindset going forward, right? And building a community, working on communication with people. I'm blogging, sharing my experience, sharing my technical knowledge, sharing things that I've learned. I'm also building more outside of work. I am shipping features to clients. I'm getting genuinely excited about software development at this point. This is like 2 years into the journey, and I'm all in at this point. Okay, 2022. So 2022, kind of a whirlwind year. There was a lot of things that happened. Technically wise, it was a lot of the same. It was, I'm blogging, I'm just working on these projects, things like that. It was a little bit hectic of a year. We had our wedding. That was wonderful. We had a couple fantastic vacations that year. I bought my Tesla that year. There was really a lot going on. But I continued to grow on Twitter. I continued to post on my blog. And I decided to try and ship my first SaaS. And this was really my first experience of trying to build something for myself. I'm very active on Twitter, right? So one of the things I didn't like with Twitter at the time was its bookmarking system. I did not want to have to pay for premium to be able to bookmark and organize things. So what I decided to build was an app called Chirpmark, which would essentially be like a free Twitter bookmarking tool that would let you organize and tag tweets and search through them. And I actually built it, integrated with the Twitter API, and got it into production. And I had people on and testing. And that was kind of where it fell apart. You see, the problem with Chirpmark was I didn't have a target audience. I didn't have a vision for it. So when people would give me feedback, they were like, this is cool, but you should do this. The you should do this part were way over in left field. So part of me was like, okay, yeah, this is a bookmarking tool for Twitter. I don't know how to grow it. The feature set that's there is very basic, and people seem to want other things, right? Like, it's this is cool, but how is it different than just paying for what's already on Twitter, right? And with that wide range of feedback, I decided I was just gonna stop working on it and kill the project. Had I gotten more feedback that was like, this is cool because XYZ, you have this feature that Twitter doesn't do, which is cool that it was, this is what Twitter is doing. Here's what I think you should do. And just rebuilding something that Twitter was already doing, to me, that was a good technical learning experience, right? Because I had to sync with Twitter. I had to interact with their API. I had to implement login, right? So that was a great technical learning experience. The marketing side is where I really fell off because I didn't know what I wanted to add. I didn't know what else I wanted to do with it, right? So I ended up killing it, and lessons learned, move on, try again later. And yes, I would be trying again later for building a SaaS. Okay, 2023. So, yeah, 2023 was a year. What I ended up doing was I was still working full time. I was still working on my freelancing stuff. I also decided to go back and coach gymnastics at my old high school for boy season. And high school sports are usually 3 months out of a year. But man, it was kind of a lot to manage. So went back and coached, and that was great. I did miss the sport quite a bit. I missed coaching quite a bit. I like working with the kids. But I also started to get more stuff done this year in terms of my career. So the first thing was that I picked up not one, but 2 new freelancing clients. And, oh man, if I can spell. Okay, so these projects that I picked up for both of them were pretty big. One of them was a port of something that I had actually wrote a long time ago for a client, and it had kind of been on the lay low. It was not the same project as this one, by the way. It was a different project, but onboarded with them again now as my actually own company, because yes, I actually founded my LLC to manage all this. So, I picked up 2 new clients, pretty big projects, got, said prior client integrated with my new LLC, and really just went to town on these. Now, founding an LLC, I'm going to do a whole nother video on like being a business owner and having to think about the business side of things instead of just coding, because this has kind of been a whirlwind and I've only done this for a year. There's a lot of things that just people don't think about, but you start having to think about when you own a business. So that'll be cool. That'll be coming later. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that now. Just these 2 projects were huge and really were phenomenal to work on. I'm still working on them, and they have done nothing but help me grow given the technical complexities that are involved with them. Now, the other big thing that happened in 2023 was I started working as a consultant. So I switched jobs again, and now, currently, this is my current role, is I'm a consultant. and our office is in Chicago. And I felt again that this was at the time, the best move for my career. And again, I feel like this absolutely was the right thing for me to do. The connections that I have now made with my new coworkers, the teams that I've gotten to work on, the scale of problems that we are tackling has been almost mind blowing to me. We're not just building individual apps anymore, right? Like we're scaling out microservices. We're doing read write store databases. We're doing eventing. Like we're doing a lot of stuff that I just hadn't had exposure to. So it has been an absolutely wonderful experience, and again, just something that really has helped my growth so far. Having the experience from here, right, and even from this job, right, that I got in 2020, absolutely changed what I was able to do with my new clients. Prior to working these two jobs, I don't think I could have touched what was being asked here. And now one is in production already, and one is going into internal testing at the end of August. So having all of this experience has been tremendous. The final thing of 2023 is I decided to dip my toes back into building a SaaS. And this one I've stuck with and is in production. So you've probably seen on my blog or on Twitter or even on this channel that I have built an app called Cubase. And I built Cubase specifically for my freelancing. I had a couple needs where I needed to run background jobs, and long story short, that's really hard to do in Next.js. It is not really a great experience. There's problems that I have with existing solutions. I just either, they're not maintained, they're overly complicated, there's too much setup, there's not a great developer experience. Like there was a lot of reasons why I didn't go with existing solutions, right? And decided to just build my own. So I actually tried building Cubase 3 times before I landed on the current version. The first time I built it was a nightmare, to be completely honest. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never built something like this. I didn't even know how to start architecting something like this because I was taking something that was inherently needing a server and trying to bring it into the serverless world. And I had no idea how to approach that, but I tried. So the first thing I did was I started, okay, I'm going to build a node server with some kind of queuing mechanism and an API endpoint that I can just push stuff into. It worked. Now, there were other things like why I didn't continue with that because it started to get a little bit complicated with my setup. I was using Redis as the message broker. I was using Fastify as the API. I was trying to roll my own queuing system, which that was a mistake. I should have used something like Bull if I was going to continue down that path. There were just missteps with that version. So I gave up on it, started over, and decided I am going to build this with an existing queuing solution. And this is going to bring us into 2024, where I decided to rebuild Cubase using only Next.js, and I decided to implement with Upstash and use their QStash tool to be my message broker. And that single decision turned out to be the reason that I was able to ship. Because they took care of the hard parts for me. I just had to do the integration, and I shipped an API client, I shipped a dashboard, I shipped logging for jobs. I've shipped so much with this because I decided to outsource it to a company that really knew what they were doing. Like, this is kind of their bread and butter. It just integrated with their solution and essentially built a nice wrapper around it. And I shipped it, and it's in production, and it's actually being used in production in some of my client apps, which is super cool. So right now I'm on the marketing journey, if you will, for building SaaSes, and this has been pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a developer. I don't really do a whole lot of marketing, but this has been an overall fantastic learning experience. And again, one of those things that is really pushing my skill set. Um, Besides that, really this year so far has been focused on growing my own skills and growing my own company's products, business, what have you, while also continuing to just absorb as much information as I can from being a consultant. Um, and again, that whole being a consultant now has been a game changer to me in terms of things that I've learned and things that I've been able to do. Again, the scale of projects is astronomical. I've gotten to work with incredible people who are so much smarter than me, and I have learned a lot from them. And really, I would not be on this journey myself if I didn't have the mentorship and guidance from my coworkers and mentors who have just really absolutely pushed me to be the best developer I can possibly be. So, yeah, quick recap. In 2019, I landed my first freelancing project where I used Java Spring and Angular to build it. I also landed my first job as a junior developer. As a junior, I got to work with technologies like .NET Framework, .NET Core, Python, Django, JavaScript, and a bunch of other really cool stuff. In 2020, I decided that it was time for me to explore other opportunities and got a new job where I was mostly working in .NET Core and React Next.js. 2020 was when I started to get serious about the whole Node, React, and Next ecosystem. 2021, I picked up another freelance client and built the whole app in Next and TypeScript. I loved it so much that I ported my old first freelance app over to it and got that into production. I also got serious about creating content and sharing content on Twitter, as well as writing blog posts. 2022 had significantly less going on than 21 in terms of development growth, but I continued to just try and grow my blog and grow my Twitter presence, as well as I tried building and shipping my first SaaS product, which ultimately failed, but I learned a lot of really good things from it. 2023, things started to really kick off for me. I picked up 2 new clients. I started my own LLC to manage all of this. I got a new job as a consultant where I've gotten to do and learn an absolutely astronomical amount in a short amount of time. And I started building Cubase, which brings us to today, where Cubase is in production. I am continuing to build and scale my freelance apps, and I'm starting to get into marketing a little bit. So yeah, these past 5 years have been absolutely wild looking back to the things that I was building when I had no experience, and the journey through either changing jobs or starting new apps and new projects, where here I would be almost timid and scared to step out of my comfort zone and try things technologically, whereas here I'm like, I'm going to do a proof of concept, I'm going to spin something up, I'm going to learn, I'm going to push myself, and I'm going to do it. So that's going to bring us to the end of today's video. If you liked it, make sure you give a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be posting a lot more about software development and business and all that good stuff. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.